Good evening. Welcome to another night here on Spirit Connections. It's our Halloween extravaganza. Woo! We have no pumpkins. We have no pumpkins. Usually we have a pumpkin. I'm Tiffany Rice, Spirit Medium Tiffany Rice, or my furry companion, Chloe, which is a Yorkie mix. I know it's kind of a bad bad representation. Sorry, Chloe. Steph?
I am Spirit Medium Stephanie Burke. And tonight, our wonderful guests for our Halloween special, it would not be Halloween without either of them, are Matthew Moniz and Andrew Lake.
Yay! I feel like we should have a cheering section. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having us.
You guys have been pretty busy. I know the Bridgewater Triangle documentary has come out October 20th, and since then they've been selling out everywhere.
Yep.
And both of you guys took part in that.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's been a big success. Manny and Aaron put a lot of work into that project, and I think it came out rather well.
I think it did superb. I flabbergasted at how professional they actually made it look. It is a true documentary.
Yeah, it's not somebody's home movie. It's a very, very well done project. I don't know who the Lauren Coleman guy was though. I don't understand what his connection was.
Was he on Monster Quest?
Yeah, he was on Monster Quest.
He was, I believe.
But no, I mean I think everybody who's ever played any part in researching or investigating that area of Massachusetts was well represented. Very well done. I enjoyed it.
Well, I enjoyed being there with you guys for the documentary premiere and sitting with you and watching everybody I knew take part in a Q&A, take part in the actual documentary, and I think you guys did an awesome job. I especially liked watching Matt looking pretty cool. Walking by, like these shots would just be like Matt doing this thing, which was awesome. And Andy, your storytelling.
Yeah, they did make me look rather intelligent.
You are pretty smart. I'll give you that.
Well, I do have to say that I just made an appearance the other morning on the Road Show in Rhode Island.
Wicked exciting.
And I had a slip of the tongue, and I couldn't believe it. I'm watching the video of it. I'm like, oh, you dummy! I can't believe you said that. So I had to send a little apology to them. Nobody's going to notice. Only I noticed that I said it. But I was talking about two names, both ending in ER, and I was jumping back from Potter to Walker, and I said Potter when I meant to say Walker. But it was so quick and subtle. I hope nobody caught it.
Nobody's going to know.
But at my talk at the library last night, I'm like, did anybody see me on the Road Show?
Yeah, you were at Harmony Library
watched
last night.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I did a talk at the Harmony Library last night. It went very well. And if we get to talking about in more detail what I've been up to, I'll touch back on that because I had a very, very interesting moment after the talk. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. But anyway, how did
Rhode
you?
Island's also been on.
What's that?
Haunted Rhode Island's also been on the past.
Oh, well, yeah. Jason Mayu and Christian White's project. Yeah, let's face it, that's another landmark documentary series. I mean, I was very proud to have something to do with that, too. But I just want to know, how did you get a T-shirt and I didn't?
He's Matt.
Aaron just handed it.
That's great.
Helped him set up the table. It's like, oh, cool shirt. He goes, here you go.
But because I had my talk at the library, I didn't get to go to the second event. How did the Q&A go on that?
Q&A was only a handful of questions, not like it was
Okay.
in Dartmouth, but the turnout was phenomenal.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. They just kept filling up and filling up.
And they filled. They
Yeah.
pretty much sold it out.
That's
They did
awesome.
a very good job selling out.
I promoted it last night at my talk at the library, and people at the library hadn't seen it, but they were well aware of the film, so they were all like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to see that.
That's really cool.
It's funny. Last week I did a house gathering reading, and when I got there, I was getting ready, and all of a sudden I heard, oh yeah, well I went to the Bridgewater Triangle documentary, and so someone was talking about it, and so I was like, I know about that, and so they actually saw it in Dartmouth, and they wanted to go back and see it again. So after the party, I wrote down all the info that I had of when they could go back and see it. So it was funny that now they're getting people that are going a second time around.
Yeah.
You know?
I had a historian from Coventry, Rhode Island. He was at an event that Ken DeCosta of Rise Up Paranormal had at the Payne House, and he walked up to me and went, hey, you're the guy that was in the Bridgewater Triangle film, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, I saw that. That was like great. He said that was really, and he's not a paranormal guy, he's an historian, but he thought as a documentary there's a lot of history to it, not just the paranormal history, but
A lot of historians are going,
and,
yeah.
and as an historian, he really, really enjoyed it. So I'm really happy for them. I think it's a great
I think
great
the way
project.
they set it up too, and I said this when I co-hosted Spooky South Coast live from the event, but they didn't go in a certain way, or they didn't sway anybody's opinion. So it wasn't just ghosts, it wasn't just aliens, it wasn't just Bigfoot or true crime. It pretty much opened it up to everybody. So everybody's point of view was covered. I think a lot of people that may have been just into ghosts learned a lot about the area, and maybe about the UFOs, or maybe about something else, and vice versa. And it really did a good job to cover every aspect of weird. It's the best way I can put it.
Every aspect of weird is what
I know,
happens in
I
there,
know,
so.
but I think it's very difficult because we have so much go on. And I know, Matt, you've been out in the field for what, over 30 years now, in the Bridgewater Triangle, exploring every aspect of anything. I know this is the guy I call when I have some weird problem. anything paranormal happens. Listen to you.
Paranormal, right, Steph?
Yes, paranormal.
Yeah.
Paranormal. But
Well, she did trick you into mowing her lawn once, didn't she?
Yeah.
Matt, I got something
Speaking of
strange
which,
over
you
here.
still owe me the $20.
20.
Somehow
We
my
agreed on
lawn got
5.
taller. Could you make it shorter?
But I do call Matt because he lives right down the street, and I go, this happened. I need an explanation. But I think you're.
If I don't have the explanation, I can tell you where to find it at least.
Yes,
At least where to
but
start
usually
looking
you
into
have it, and if you don't, there's panic that sets in.
well, going with Steph's point, one of the things that's really fascinating is Aaron Cashew, one of the directors and producers. He absolutely is not a paranormal enthusiast, but as a Massachusetts resident, he's just fascinated that there's this spot in his state that people from all around the world who research this stuff, know about it. And as I was saying, I helped a Spanish film crew
Right.
who came to do their own version of the Bridgewater Triangle. And the host of the show was saying that, even though he knows all the ghost stories in Spain, his dream has been to come to New England, to come to Massachusetts, and walk around and explore the Bridgewater Triangle. And I thought that was very, very cool. Because, I'd love to go to Spain. And he told me if
Right.
I ever do come, he'll give me a tour of the haunted locations around Spain. But he was just so excited to be here to say, I've been in the Bridgewater Triangle.
I feel like we have a different sense of the paranormal here. Like, everybody here wants to go to Europe or wants to go to the older places that you feel like, the ghosts are more ancient. But everybody wants to come here instead. And I think it's really interesting because.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now that you opened your mouth, went.
Well, what it is we're used to our ghosts here.
Yes.
And they're
They're
used to their ghosts
here.
and
But
something new.
see, I think if I lived in, say, Ireland, I'd want to go to, England to check out their ghosts. Or because it's still a different country. It might just be Europe, but it's still a different country. I want to go, hang out. Let's go check out this place. Let's go check out that place. But
It's an
they
hour
want
and
to
a
come
half boat
here.
ride.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
know,
say,
It's
it's
not
not
very
very easy.
but they don't live there. So
Well,
It's different.
One of the things I found really interesting in talking to Santiago Camacho about the area, and I remember telling him about the fact that we've had Bigfoot sightings throughout the Bridgewater Triangle, and I was telling him this, and he's sitting there absolutely just fascinated with what I'm telling him. And then when I got to the Pugwudgie stuff, he's sitting there listening, and I could see him with this look on his face, like he was intently listening to me. And he says, what's really bizarre? People don't know it, but we have Bigfoot in Spain as well in our mountains, and there's been a lot of hand-in-hand reports of Bigfoot with a creature that they don't call a Pugwudgie, but it's the same type of guy,
Right.
the same type of little creature. And he says there's a lot of hand-in-hand stories of this Squatch creature and this Pugwudgie creature in Spain. So even though we're separated, it's it seems to be everybody has that paranormal
Folklore,
pocket.
yeah,
They have
I
that
love it.
paranormal pocket where similar things happen.
I actually was going to try to pull off being a Pugwudgie tonight. but
Oh,
that
you could have
didn't-
done it.
But,
Yeah, you
but
could have
then,
done it.
obviously, look at what I did with the face here. If
Yeah.
I tried to paint myself gray, it would have been a horror story with little shorts or.
Pugwudgies don't wear shorts.
I know, but I obviously would have to cover something up, right?
Yeah, so you wouldn't be a true Pugwudgie. So it's good that you didn't.
Yeah, it would have.
Just
It
hide the
wouldn't have
blueberry
been.
bush. Just strap blueberry bushes around you. That's
There you go.
just
There you go.
lyric on people.
Okay, so moving on.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
We're all looking at you.
Sorry, I
You're the
got
one
stuck with
that-
blueberry bush.
Bushes, yeah.
bushes, blueberry bushes. I automatically had a response, and then again, I always forget where I am. So anyways,
Good.
Yeah, so the documentary is doing very well.
GPS for Christmas. That's
Yes,
what we're
there you
getting.
go.
No, because I don't pay attention to I get annoyed with the,
No, can I tell you that she has one on her phone and she got us lost 4 times the other night? 4. There's no point.
That makes me wonder about you, because after the
Sorry,
second
guys.
one, I would have taken over navigation.
I wasn't with her. I was
Yeah.
following her.
Oh.
no, we got lost, no, it was just we missed a house.
4 times.
No,
Yes.
twice.
Oh.
Once on the way back each time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have
No, it was 1, 2, 3, and I had to go back a 4th time.
Yeah,
So you might have been 3.5.
yeah.
So she's special.
And if anybody
GPS
wants to,
doesn't help.
if anybody wants to talk with us, feel free to give us a call. You can call us at 781-281-8433. We can take your calls live here in the studio.
All right. Now, we got all of these little subjects that happen in the Bridgewater Triangle. Let's go down them one by one.
Okay.
We'll start off with hauntings. All right.
Okay.
We know that there are plenty of haunted places within the Bridgewater Triangle, and these places have been haunted for years. All right. What do you girls, as mediums, see as why there would be so many spirits stuck here? What about this triangle is unique to you guys that you don't feel or sense outside the triangle area? Okay, you understand the question? I
Yes.
assume.
Well, we have a lot of running water, which is said to hold a lot of energy. We also, the type of stone that we have here, specifically like quartz or granite, things like that, hold a lot of energy. So I know that's been rumored for a while, is that's why they're here, but I think the triangle is actually much larger than an actual triangle as well.
Okay.
Yes, even Lauren Coleman now agrees that.
Yeah.
I think it extends outwards a little bit. Where it ends, I don't know exactly where it ends, but I do have to say that I think it's a little bit larger than
I would take
This
the
right
whole
here.
eastern
Yes.
side of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island.
At least to the lower test.
Absolutely.
All of Cape Cod, and probably all the way up to the New Hampshire border.
I think I might have to agree with that. I haven't been to too many places in Connecticut, but I have heard firsthand stories.
Oh,
as
eastern
to-
Connecticut is very haunted.
So it's very interesting, but I'd have to, given what I just told you about running water and stone and such, I don't know because I haven't been to certain places to actually look and see if they have the same as we do. But
I know with the experiences that I've had, especially growing up in Bridgewater and having a lot of connections in Rainham as well, I've been to a lot of houses to do walkthrough readings and so forth. When I've brought friends that have had recording devices, a lot of the information that we got, EVPs, so to speak, weren't connected directly to the homeowner, and it almost sounded like it had some sort of history background tied to the land.
Okay.
And at least 2 of the houses that I've been to, one was built 2 years ago, and at the time that I went to another house in Rainham, it was only 6 years old. So these were brand new houses, and again,
The land's very old,
Yeah.
though.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my personal experience.
All right, do you find it any kind of difference reading within the triangle versus where you're reading outside of it? Is there anything unique or different within this mysterious zone that you feel as psychics or mediums? Is it easier or harder, like I said?
easier or harder, I don't think there's a difference. I just
No.
think the activity's picked up inside
Okay.
the triangle rather than outside of it.
You don't find it easier or more difficult to read in the triangle, so you're saying?
No, the information still comes the same way, but I think the level of activity is heightened.
My only input on this, as far as the hauntings, I think this area of New England that we're talking about, if you look at it, there has been, even before the whites from Europe came here, there's always been intense passion heated passion. Even the Native American tribes were already at each other's throats long before we came.
For the resources.
Yeah,
in
for the
here.
resource. So I think because of the resources, the strategic locations, et cetera, there's always been heated passions to possess areas within the triangle, and a lot of blood shed because of it. And so I think not only the geology of the area, but the passion of the area, I think, also plays into it.
I've said before.
But that doesn't
too.
explain the other subjects that we can touch upon as ufology and cryptozoology.
All right, well then, any more input on
I was
the
gonna
haunting?
say what I've said, whether it's haunting, UFO, anything. I've said before, like, yeah, good idea. What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Did the energy come first, or did
Yeah, right.
someone come and create that? Also, if you look back toward, I mean, there's been a lot of rumors about pre-Columbian, which is, we're not supposed to believe that anything was here before Columbus,
Yeah.
but there
There's
definitely was.
tons of stuff.
But if
Yeah.
you look back and you truly do your research about, and there's hard facts that there were.
Oh, sure. The stone chambers are found all
Yes,
throughout the
absolutely.
Northeast. And yeah,
But what drew them to this area?
exactly.
That's what.
Resources.
Yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, you're floating down the coast and you have no idea what this land is. What makes you stop in our
Like
area?
the monk, the Irish monk that
Necessity.
came here.
You're floating down the coastlines.
Yeah.
You need food. You need
Yes.
water. You need
But
supplies.
was there a certain lure that made them come to our
Yeah,
area?
no, I
besides
understand what you're
that?
saying. The famous monk, the famous Irish monk that
Yeah.
came here in the 1400s, something he was given.
Right.
He was given a message to.
That was actually the name of the monk.
Yeah, he was supposedly given a message to make
Right.
boats and go. So
Mm-hmm.
it does make you wonder, Steph. I follow what you're saying. Was there something besides currents?
We all have that little
And-
intuition, and
Yeah.
because it was so popular to stop in that area, especially even higher up, like the Nova Scotia area, right down to
Yeah.
us. Nobody was stopping usually down in the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida area. They were, but they were lured to our area, I believe. So
Yeah, there's even rumors that the Grail was brought to
right,
Nova Scotia.
absolutely. So
And Rhode Island seems to have some of this, these strange things. The rock that was stolen and just
Yes,
returned,
the
and the tower.
Narragansett
I was
Tombstone.
going to say the tower.
Yeah, the tower and everything that seemed to have this connection, of course. And now the other theory is they're saying that Christopher Columbus was actually on a secret mission for the Knights Templar, and that's what really sent him to go across the ocean, and he just got horribly lost. He was supposed to end up somewhere in our vicinity, but found Florida instead. And the whole India story was just a cover for his mission.
yeah,
But yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's made me wonder what
truly draws them? I know there's resources, and I know we have a lot in this area, but I feel like it's
Look at in Wiltshire where they built Stonehenge. What was it about that spot that they kept
Right.
rebuilding and making it more permanent, that circle? And I always think, who
And
was
then
the guy?
traveling hundreds of miles to go collect
That's what I was
different
going to say.
stones.
That's what I was going to say. Who was the guy that said, "Yeah, we got to use bluestone"? Well, where do we get that? Up in Wales. Well, why can't we find it somewhere nearby? No, we have to go
It
to
was
Wales to a
specific.
certain quarry. And they've proven it. They've found the section in Wales where these stones came from. And in the river that used to go all the way down to the Salisbury Plains, they have found the remains of rafts with these rudely cut slabs for
Right.
Stonehenge at the bottom. So what made them go all the way up there to get that stone
it's
to
a
bring
lure.
it to bring it to
Something sucks
Stonehenge?
them in, but what is it?
Yeah.
I'm
Will we
absolutely
ever find out?
fascinated.
Yeah.
I'm
You
absolutely
know.
fascinated by that, by archaeoastronomy, by Knights Templar, Freemasons, everything. I could sit and I could listen and I could watch it for hours. The whole entire thing fascinates me. Why, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but it does. It does.
Okay, now let's move on to cryptids.
Funny little critters.
Wait, you don't like cryptids?
Cryptids are okay, but I know what comes next.
Well, we'll talk about the
True
big snakes and
crimes.
birds.
Okay, that's all right. I'm okay with that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Saving the best for last, dear.
No! I'll be under the covers by then.
Okay.
Yeah, but cryptids, I mean, is it because the Huckamuck Swamp is so hard to get into that you don't molest snakes so they grow to be
I would
incredible
hope you don't
size?
molest snakes.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean?
But-
No, like in my state of Rhode Island, there's actually photographs of the boys every
Wow.
year would go out and hunt the snakes because snakes were such a problem eating the
Whacking
chicken
day.
eggs. Yeah, just exactly that kind of joke. But I've seen photographs of the boys with their clubs and their 22s or whatever, and pictures from like the town of Foster and Situate where they had all their snakes tied up on their poles so they'd get so many pennies a snake. And it was encouraged every year, everybody go out and hunt snakes because snakes were a problem. So obviously these huge snakes that the Conservation Corps ran into in the Huckamuck, nobody was hunting them because there was no reason to worry about snakes in the Huckamuck. So did snakes grow incredibly large in the Huckamuck because nobody was going in there and hunting them for a bounty? Or is it something about the Huckamuck that makes big, creepy animals?
You'll never know.
Yeah.
Well, I know, at least with the biology of reptiles, if they have enough food source and they don't have any predators, they will grow to the size to occupy.
Of stovepipes,
Yeah.
according to these guys from the Conservation Corps.
Yeah, if you don't have anything eating them, you know.
Yeah.
They live a long time.
And that as well. But most snakes grow rapidly within their first few years.
But then how do you explain thunderbirds, which are, they're not just turkey vultures. These things are supposed to be monsters.
Do we believe?
We've had reports of thunderbirds across the country
Yeah.
and other countries for years.
Do we believe that they actually hid out from prehistoric times?
What?
Thunderbirds?
Snakes?
No,
No.
not snakes.
I was gonna
Snakes have been here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thunderbirds, the birds that I've actually.
Bird Hill and all that.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we know from archaeological record that there were these raptors that were
Yep.
this large. Why can't something like a large bird of prey remain, still in existence? But it's one of these things where this thing would hunt and fish would be in remote areas to sustain itself. So not being sighted all that often is not unexpected given what it would be dieting for. Because the only times that I remember modern sightings having credible witnesses that belong to bush pilots in Alaska that have seen these things on a number of occasions. Like they're talking about what they assumed at first was another small plane until they got a little closer and realized that this is a large bird. And
A very large bird, yeah.
Yeah, and they all describe pretty much the same thing, a large eagle-like
Yep.
bird. There's also been reports of them seen in South America. So we know that certain birds fly back and forth on coastal routes. So why aren't we seeing it in the middle of America? Well, they're taking and using thermal dynamics, the ocean emitting up the upwelling currents. The best currents they get are out off the coast and fly down to the other southern coast and crisscross back and forth.
So virtually unseen.
Yeah, and we're along a coastline, so occasionally they may drop out of their little flight path and some poor cop winds up seeing it crossing the road. Like,
So why can't we have dinosaurs anymore?
Well, there's been some interesting stories out of the Congo.
Really?
And there was a very interesting story from a
Makelele
World
Mbembe.
War II vet out. It was out in the Pacific. And he went up, he had one day off on the base on the island he was at, and he went up to the top of a rise just to take a look at the view. And as he was coming toward the cliff, through the jungle, he said he heard this gigantic whooshing of air and looked up and saw what he described as a flying reptile leave, like a pterodactyl, leave the ledge and just soar off over the jungle. And he stood there thinking, oh my God, that's a pterodactyl. It's not a bird. I just saw a flying lizard leave the top of this rock. And to this day, there are people still saying, oh, they're up there in the mountains. Yeah, the roping, exactly, thank you. Flying around. So I guess if things are unmolested, whether it be the
I was
Congo
just gonna
or...
say
what's it with
that.
you and Melissa?
Yeah, oh, I like that.
But I was just going to ask that, like, wouldn't you find these species in areas that are as close to their natural environment from the get-go? I mean, I'm thinking of these thunderbirds that are shown through here.
When you got a shopping mall right nearby, not a dense jungle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there's pollution. There's tons of pollution between, like, the air pollution, between, like, chemicals within the plants that
It
we,
would also explain their rarity.
Right. So, and I also think, what about evolution as well? Like, wouldn't it?
Evolution. 99% of all species are extinct at any one time. Weird little factoid, but it's true.
This is why we like you.
There's also an interesting other little artifact. Animals will go extinct and other animals replace it, but some come back. There's a reoccurring themes in some things. Some things get larger and smaller. Some things come out of the ocean and return back to the ocean and stuff like that. So are we really seeing something that died out long ago, or are we getting glimpses
Something
of
new.
something that is just starting to develop?
Yep, yeah.
And there's so many things as well that that we're still unaware of and we're still learning about.
Correct.
You know, when it comes to new species.
Well over 2/3 of our planet are water, and we've explored almost nothing.
I was going to say none of it. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
None of it below
Right.
the surface.
Now, if there's some kind of supernatural explanation for animals like this, it might have something to do with the more strange animals in the Bridgewater Triangle. You know, obviously we talk about Bigfoot, the Pugwudgies, but there's also these creatures that have been referred to as the Roadrunners. These bizarre, kind of undefined things that have been seen just scrambling across the road that have made people slam on their brakes and go, I have no idea what kind of critter that was that just ran across the road. So is it, if we're going to get really crazy with theories and say, is there some sort of portal here in the Bridgewater Triangle? If Squatch comes stepping through with his little buddy, the Pugwudgie, do birds from that dimension fly through with them? I mean, I know that's kind of far-fetched, but then again, the Bridgewater Triangle is a weird place, so who knows what the explanation could be for
What
some of these
about
things.
like Nessie and Champ?
What about them?
What do we think they are?
Giant eels.
Giant eels, or do you think it's like a giant dinosaur under there?
Well, and maybe
I can't
from,
remember the type of dinosaur right now that had the really long neck. It's gonna,
Plesiosaur.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
My
So-
favorite was Brontosaurus.
Well,
That was my favorite. I took
Cousin
to that.
Brachiosaurus.
I'm
Yeah.
a T-Rex kind of girl.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, little arms. But yeah, I think you know, these lake creatures, I don't think they're that strange. I think people just get freaked out by them. They don't want to think about the fact that, hey, I'm swimming in a lake that has something big enough to maybe grab me and pull me under, so they don't like to think about
They
it.
don't
But
look
Yet
like
they have
they-
no problem going into the ocean.
yeah,
Right.
exactly, which is
Right.
absolutely silly, and especially since they just found that that gigantic
The oarfish?
Yeah, the oarfish. Yeah, just recently. That thing is pretty
Two
big.
of them actually
And
washed up.
So one reporter go, well, this could explain all the sea serpent legends. Yeah, because it is a sea serpent. That's, I mean, look at the darn thing.
well, if you look at like all those documented, you know, I guess you could say stories, but even though it might not be a story, from fishermen for years in different sea monsters.
Well, the
and
same type of
things
thing
like
that's
that.
seen it-
Mermaids and mermans. I
Well,
like
don't forget,
talking
Loch
about
Ness
that.
isn't the only lake up in that region of Great Britain
Right.
that these things are seen. And then when you think about all the sightings down off of Cornwall by the fishermen off there, this could be the same animals swimming up the
Yes.
coastline, going into a channel.
Well, there could be more than
I
one.
mean, that castle along Loch Ness, they say there are some caves under there that nobody's had the cojones to go swimming into to find out where they go. It could just be a very large eel that comes and goes now and again, and
Right.
they're seen some seasons and others they're not. But, you know, I think lake monsters aren't, we should stop calling them monsters. They're just rarely seen creatures. And once you put monster on it, everybody thinks, well, it's supernatural and crazy. And no, it's just an animal. We don't see that often.
And like going back to what you were saying before, how every place has a whether it's an urban legend, folklore, what have you. I mean, Josh Gates, who has a show, I enjoy his show because it brought to light for me a lot of the, you know, with the Yeti. I know Lauren Coleman talks about
Yeah.
Yetis and stuff as well, but for me, it opened my eyes to the fact, just like you said, every single place has their monster
Yeah,
or
right.
their story. Like I'm very
They're
familiar with
secluded creature,
right?
right, yeah.
Excuse me. I'm very familiar with Nessie because my family's from Scotland. So
Right.
I mean, I grew up with little Nessie patches to put on my jacket. So so that type of stuff was always, you know, second nature to me. But then seeing all these other little villages, I just thought it was nice that there was something on TV that other people could, you know, get the word out.
And we've learned recently that Yetis go after Triscuit crackers in the night. Yeah.
Yes.
And at Disney,
I know
there's that ride. It's called Avalanche. You probably know
No.
Avalanche. I forget. It's
And does the Yeti make
in
an appearance
Disney.
there?
Yeah. Well, no. You go in line and there's a picture of Josh Gates and there's a picture of the Yeti and it goes into like the whole story of the Yeti and it's
And
about.
his cast is there,
Yeah.
that he made, yeah.
But I forget the name of the ride. I went on it once. It's like I think it's called Avalanche. If you guys know, Tell us, because it's driving me crazy right now. I can see it.
I'm sure we could Google it.
I think it's in Animal Kingdom.
But you don't ride Josh Gates, though.
Oh, well, that's a story. So.
I heard you.
I was just going to say, Matt.
No comments from this side of the peanut gallery because it's too dangerous and not PG.
So, but I just thought, and that was another thing too. I mean, I went in 2009, so to be waiting in line to go on this ride and see that and see how popular it became, and I thought it was pretty neat to have it kind of go mainstream. So, you know, a lot of people have these fears of what they don't know, and so to have it kind of be shown as something as mainstream, being shown at Disney World, that's something that's pretty big.
All right, now let me diverge the question here with this. If you had a choice to have some sort of cryptid encounter, which one would you prefer?
Oh, I like this question.
That one.
This one? Well, this one is kind of like
Mad Bear
a,
Pig?
it's almost, I didn't know what it was. I kind of could go for a Chewbacca, but that's Star Wars, so I guess I would go. I know. I would always like.
Well, I thought you meant Ewok.
Oh, I love Ewoks. I would love to hold a baby. I would love to hold a baby.
They bite.
They bite.
Just thought it'd be funny.
Babies can't bite, yeah.
Babies can bite. A baby Sasquatch, but I guess
Baby Sasquatch.
I would love to hold one.
No, you wouldn't. They're huge
No.
and stinky.
You know. But you could bathe the baby.
I don't think.
You saw Harry and the Hendersons way too many
I
times.
did. I did.
You want your own Bigfoot in the family.
I mean, I can tell you the one that I wouldn't want to meet up with would be the blue jersey. Is it no? That's
the Jersey Devil.
The Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. Those are the ones that I wouldn't want to meet up with. Anything that's like blood sucking just isn't. It doesn't fancy me in any way. So.
Okay. How about you?
What kind of cryptid I would like to come in contact with? I think Bigfoot's a little too extreme for me. He's kind of big, and something about running into something that's larger than a bear in the middle of the woods scares me just a little bit.
Have you ever seen a moose?
Yeah, that's pretty
I
scary.
don't like to go near one of those either.
That's a
I
big
keep my
critter.
distance.
I grabbed hold of one by the antlers, climbing over a log pile.
You would.
I wasn't.
You would.
I thought it was
You
a
would.
root. He was sleeping on the other side of the pile. I'm climbing over
Oh,
the pile,
Matt.
grabbed what I thought was a dried out root, pulled it, and it stood up. Grab him for my rifle. I was like, oh crap.
That is a big animal.
Only you.
Yeah, you don't say.
Wow.
I've never seen one live.
Oh, they're huge.
I was in Vermont once, and I think it was standing in the middle of we were staying on like a mountainside and put on the high beams of the car, and it's just a couple of them standing in the middle of the road, no big deal. Didn't move, didn't ask it to.
But
It
this
was fine.
this is a very good comparison, though. You talk about the actual cryptid creatures.
Yeah.
You talk about Bigfoot. Well, people don't see them enough. Where are they? In Little Rhode Island, in the West Greenwich area, in the swamps, we have moose in there, and nobody in Rhode Island knows
Right.
that fact. They have
Well,
been counted by DM, but there's also reports of Squatch being in those same swamps
Right.
where the moose is. So for the same argument that nobody sees moose in Rhode Island, and it's a big animal, and they are there, DEM has counted them. They know
Yeah.
how many are there, and I've had guys in the West Greenwich area say, hey, be careful when you're out hiking around because they are out there. Who's to say that, if an animal that big can hide?
I remember
in the swamps?
driving with you. The only thing I can remember is we were driving by that country club that you said. We were like in the middle of nowhere, like no streetlights. And when we were
That'd
driving,
be a Foster.
Yeah, I think it might have been the Foster.
I don't remember, but they said moose crossing on the. There was a sign that said moose crossing,
Oh, yeah, I think, well, maybe.
and I said,
yeah,
Andy,
yeah.
is that a real sign?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. I think that was down more toward Exeter.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I said, what? There's moose out here?
But yeah, find anyone in Rhode Island outside of DEM who's actually seen one, and it's like I've had people go, "No, there's no moose." Oh yeah, I know a guy who was in DEM who's told me.
I remember that
yeah.
driving with you. But to answer your original question, I think I might go with Nessie or whatever lives in the lake.
Yeah, because you can wave at it from the shore.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my first thought was, but you can't pet Nessie.
Why
That's
can't
why I
you?
went with a. Well, I mean,
You can pet anything you want to. The reaction? Well,
Right.
that's another
One of the-
story.
one of the
We'll send you in
spookiest-
first.
One of the spookiest lake monster stories was the woman. She's still alive to this day. I've seen her interviewed a couple of times on TV. When she was just a teenager with her dad, driving behind the boat water skiing, and let go of the rope, and she says, I go into the water with the skis going up in the air, and all the bubbles are going around me, and she looks, and coming up in between the skis and her legs is this head like the size of a giraffe, but looking,
Yep.
you know, scaly, and just coming up like checking her out. And she said she absolutely freaked, and her father saw her like splash around
Yep.
the water and came back and got her, but she would never go on the lake after that.
which lake was it?
Champlain.
Oh,
yeah. So I
really?
mean, it's Champ. It's and the odd thing was, as a guy who hunts Nessie in Scotland, he uses the same exact outboard motors on his boat, and there was a theory that maybe something to do with the tone those motors are giving off may have made the thing go, hey, what's this all about? And it wasn't going to eat the girl, probably, we hope, but I would have freaked if something that big
Right.
came up out of the depths at me.
Yeah, that kind of fascinates me. I think maybe like the reports of like big black cats that aren't a panther, or what they don't think is a panther.
I could have sworn I
Well-
saw one. Remember when Aaron was on and I shared that story? And I was in Bridgewater.
I thought you said it was a dog.
We have
It,
got
it looked huge.
credible
I couldn't tell what
reports.
it was.
Yeah.
We have credible reports of basically mountain lion in this area,
Well, you
making
can
its
see,
way back into this
I
area.
am into black cats.
So, and some of them do wind up being black. That
Mm-hmm.
is one of the traits that is prevalent around here. They can be, dark in color, not just the tawny.
Right. I think I'd be interested in that too.
Well, the big black cats of England, it's basically been agreed upon that they were, when
Pets.
when a taxation law was passed in Great Britain, you had all these rock stars and movie stars that had these exotic animals for pets, and they were like, I'm not paying that much. And they literally just let them off into the wild, and they did survive because big cats did exist in Great Britain.
Right.
I was on Mount Snowdon
They
in
had
1977,
lions.
and going up Mount Snowdon, not the rock side that everybody practiced for Everest. There's no way I'm going up that, but I walked the 11 miles up the rolling hills on the other side of Mount Snowdon. And we're walking in the fog, and I'll never forget this. We stepped over one of the stone farmers' walls that just go on for miles, and the sheep around us. We stepped over near this brook, and there was an adult sheep that had been ripped to shreds. And there were no wild dogs in England because of a rabies scare they had back in the 50s. So dogs are very, very seriously controlled by their owners because they never want that rabies
Right.
epidemic. You don't have wolves in England, and this thing was not killed by some poacher who killed some farmer's sheep halfway up a mountain and got it. This thing was like torn to shreds. And I remember my oldest brother and my friend Eric and I just looking at it in shock. And we're looking at each other going, what the heck killed this? And a few years back, I was talking to Nick Redfern. And as I started to tell him the story, he stopped me almost in mid-sentence and go, oh, the black cats of Snowdon, yeah. He goes, yeah, there was reports of them,
Really?
wiping out, people reporting to this huge black cat killing sheep and then running off. And people go, come on, they're no panthers and whales. What are you, nuts? Well, probably some rock star living out in the secluded area around Snowdon probably said, I ain't paying those taxes, and let the cat go out the back door.
Now,
Why do I see Robert Plant?
with his long flowing blonde hair.
Go pussy, go pussy.
Alrighty then. So the next question is, I want to turn it around on you, both of you. What would you like to run into if you had a chance?
Well, I think I've already run into a pug
You're
wedgie,
still
but that's a
talking
long
about
story.
cryptids?
Probably Bigfoot. I really would like to see Bigfoot. I've always said that if I got a
Male,
glimpse,
female, baby?
doesn't matter. If I saw one of them had all these people that just, I'm telling you, I promise you, I will chase after the darn thing. I will risk a severe beating just to prove that these things
Not
do
me.
exist. They
be
seem to
in
be
the
shy
car.
creatures anyway, but I've always told myself if I was driving, either through the Bridgewater Triangle, up in the Mohawk Trail, where there's been many sightings, and even in eastern Connecticut, if I ever saw one, I definitely would go after it to actually say, yeah, I got my leg broken, but I got a clump of his hair. Quick, let's run DNA on this thing. Because I really do believe that creature does exist. What he is, I don't know. But I feel so bad for the people that get just berated for reporting these things. I know they're not nuts. There's too
Well,
many people
we had
who've seen
woolly
them.
mammoths. Why we
Yeah.
have furry
Right.
elephants? Why
Yeah.
can't we have big furry gorilla types?
Yeah.
We still have big furry gorillas.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
Type.
gonna say,
And
I-
the species
So I
that
said
was
the
recently
type like
found,
that.
Matt had told me that. Remember, it
Yeah.
was about 2 years ago, they found that species of gorilla they never knew existed.
They found roughly 100,000.
Was it along the Congo too?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it was in West Africa.
Again, where they see huge snakes. There's that famous picture the Dutch military took from the reconnaissance
Yeah,
plane. That
that-
snake
right.
that is like, oh my
Yeah, they
God.
estimate the thing to be at least almost 75 feet long,
thank you.
75.
And this was
50 to
this was a
75.
Dutch soldier who was trained to estimate the size of things that he was taking photographs of because he's a reconnaissance man. And that picture just absolutely will blow your mind when you see it. It's like, I'm not landing.
And I wouldn't blame them,
Yeah.
because this thing is huge.
It was just
It's
scary,
huge.
scary. But again,
How about the one
dinosaurs-
in the river that they took a picture of?
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw that picture not too long ago, and I was like,
That was in Philippines or
Yeah.
Taiwan? Or
yeah.
somewhere in that
The
area?
guy just managed to get the shot off, but you can see enough of it to know that this isn't somebody clowning
This is
around.
an aerial shot of a river, and you see the head of the snake, and you see the rest of it, and you know how when you see aerial pictures of rivers, like this thing is big.
Yeah.
So would it be
It's
considered
big.
an anaconda or?
Anaconda on steroids.
On
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, anaconda
yeah.
might be a baby snake compared
Yeah.
to a
It probably
Really?
is a member of the anaconda family,
Right.
Yeah.
but huge. Now, what would I like to see?
Yes.
See, yeah, Bigfoot, yeah, that would be interesting. I've already had a Bigfoot encounter, but it was in utero.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
your
But,
mom's
uh,
story, which is fascinating.
How
Which is weird
apropos.
because she had that encounter just before Patterson-Gimlin. That was in March, April of '67, and Patterson-Gimlin happened in October, November, roughly October.
Yeah,
November.
so you know it wasn't somebody trying to jump on the bandwagon of the.
Yeah, it
yeah.
pre-exists.
Yeah, that's right.
Predate, but anyway, I would like to see a true, original chupacabra, not the
Yeah, the
hairless
hairless,
dog,
yeah,
and-
mixed breed
and-
coyote thing, yeah.
yeah, Texas. No, I'm talking the original chupacabra as described from the Puerto Rico incident.
Yes. Which is really, because I was talking again, Nick Redfern, he went down to Puerto Rico, and he'll tell you there's no such thing as monkeys in Puerto Rico. He says there's not a whole heck of a lot of wildlife in Puerto Rico. So there's nothing in Puerto Rico that anybody could be mistaking for a chupacabra. There's no creature that you go, oh, well, he just saw it. No, there's no monkeys. There's nothing, you know.
Well, there are, but
Yeah.
they're rare,
So
and
they
they're
live
only
in
certain
rainforest.
spots.
Yeah,
I
but
know
yeah, but we're not talking something that could even
Yeah,
be
no.
remotely mistaken for these things. I heard a guy on Art Bell back in '98 telling a story about his encounter with a chupacabra and the
Research lab?
Yeah, the Puerto Ricans that were there with him, they would come back from like a work detail, and the contractors that were with him were telling them like, leave the thing alone. And he said, we thought it was some kind of monkey or something. And I'm telling my buddy, you go around that way, I'll go around this way. And the Puerto Ricans are like going, no, like get away from it. And they weren't listening to them. And he said, I wish I had, because when the thing jumped out, he said it had that spine come up on it and made that weird noise, that hissing noise it makes. And he said, we realized right then and there we weren't dealing with a monkey, and we wish we had listened to our Puerto Rican buddies, because they knew what it was and we didn't understand. So I don't think I'd like to see a chupacabra. They're kind of nasty. I'd worry about getting bit or scratched by it. And then,
As Matt has
you
the
know.
biggest smile on his face.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I do.
Well, the guy who looked under his car one morning in Puerto Rico thought he had a dog under his car, and the thing snared back at him and ran out of his garage. I'd be like, I'll never look under my car again.
I do like watching the documentaries where they have the possible footage, and I enjoy watching that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just saying.
Well, again, we're talking about the ones in Texas. A lot of footage of the Texas coyote dog
Yeah.
Yeah.
inbred
That they
things.
call a chupacabra.
Yeah, yeah. And not to get off subject, but there was that one interesting series of pictures of that weird little thing that caught in the trap down by the
Yeah,
Texas-Mexico
they
border.
say it was a manged monkey.
Yeah, okay.
That's what they're talking.
But that was a weird little creature.
That looks a bit more intriguing than just some
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah.
Was this recent?
About 10 years now,
Yeah,
maybe.
about 10
yeah,
years ago.
I mean, if I remember right. But no, chupacabra. You can go look for that one. I'll risk getting beat up by Squatch. I don't think I want to deal
We'll
with
be in the
chup-
car for that one too.
Yeah,
And I'll
We'll let you
be
go.
wrapping a little.
I'll chase it out.
yeah.
I know. I wasn't questioning.
The thing sounds like all teeth, spine, and claws. That's why I wouldn't want it near
No,
me.
thank you.
Kind of like me.
Yeah.
There you go.
No.
We do have 10 minutes left.
Oh,
so
wow, that went by
I'm
quick.
not
Oh,
sure
now
if
we
you
got to get to the
wanna-
last subject.
No, we don't.
No? We'll touch quickly on true crimes.
Oh, that's right. What am I saying? Of course.
Hello, Bridgewater.
Yeah,
Triangle.
there's some horrible crimes in this area.
And, you know, we can toss the Satan worshiping into the same thing, you know, the cults,
Right?
all into this. Now, we know that this occurs. We have police reports, we have the court records and stuff like that. The area is definitely known to harbor cults. You know, so what are your inputs on these type of
The
cults?
satanic worshiping and so forth?
Yeah, and the animal sacrifices and all the other things that went along with the crimes.
I think a lot of it had to do with the popularity it was given. And I think it kind of brought more people to the area.
So you're saying it's
to-
Ozzy Osbourne's fault?
Absolutely. The damn chicken. Or what was it?
Bit the dove off.
The
Yeah,
dove, that's
yeah,
it. I'm
yeah.
like, was it a chicken?
And the bat.
And the bat, that's right.
But
yeah.
I do. I think like there was a lot of popularity brought to it, and I think especially from the 70s, and I think from that point on, it kind of attracted more
So what do
people
you got to say
do.
about the 70s?
Hey, I was born in the 70s.
No, that's a very good point, Chip.
I was
But,
born in-
but the
yeah.
weird thing is, you look back into colonial times, and the areas throughout this part of New England that are called like Witch Hill and Witch Den and all that. A lot of witchcraft, even in my
Devil's
state, Rhode
this
Island.
and devil's
yeah,
Was it like
yeah.
Devil's
And
Den?
Coventry, Rhode Island, Foster, Rhode Island. A lot of witchcraft practiced back in the 1700s and 1800s, and.
Of course,
I have a
Salem right
friend-
up the road area.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a witch in Foster, Rhode Island, and she's well aware of the dark history of the darker side of her spiritual beliefs. But I think you're right. I think that does have a lot to do with it. I remember when everybody was going on with the Hail Satan nonsense with the heavy metal music, and I'm not blaming the music for it. Obviously, it
Right,
isn't the music's
right.
fault, but it became a fad, is what you're trying
Yes,
to say.
yep.
But I think the point, if we're talking about the Bridgewater Triangle and how this stuff has had such a roots in the area, witchcraft's, even before the Salem witch trials, has been this sort of,
It's been
magic
prominent.
attitude.
Yeah.
And of course, some of it shoots off and becomes perverted and darker, and some of it's of the light. But there is something about this area that does seem to kind of
And
draw
aren't
that.
there more I know there must be more areas throughout. I'll just keep it small to the United States, but why is it? Is it because we are here and we hear about it more here, or do you think that there just isn't a lot of witchcraft and so forth in other areas of the country?
That's what he was asking you.
Mm.
You were supposed to answer that question.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just pertaining to like the area in which we live in. I feel like a lot of it, I mean, like Andy said, going back
fad,
to,
yeah.
But the more recent years, I think a lot of it was more so a fad. I mean, look at Charles Manson and that.
That was the
I had
Beatles'
to
fault.
just stop myself for a minute.
Held the skills.
But what do you think, Steph? Do you think that the Bridgewater Triangle, this region, has something to...
Back to the chicken and the egg. Does
Yeah.
the energy come first or do the people
Yeah.
come first? You don't know. And there's no way to know. But I think if you look back in what people said about the area, the Native Americans were happy to give up areas like the Freetown State Forest to the whites, like, have it, because they didn't want it, because they felt like the area was already tainted. The energy there wasn't good. So where did that come from? Like I said, could it be, that's why I brought up the pre-Columbian thing, because I don't know if people coming here way before that, when they
So
first
like,
started
sure,
selling.
we'll sell you the swampland.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sure, like go ahead, have it. But did everybody notice that? And that's why they didn't settle there? And the whites came along just unknowingly, just trying to take over everything, and they decided to start settling in that area. And then it was almost like joke's on you. So,
It's funny that you keep saying the whites. Actually, there
well, that's
was-
what they call it.
Yeah,
but-
well, there were a number of different people that were
Absolutely.
settling this area.
Absolutely.
So
But
you have
all we
a
hear
number
about-
of different cultures that
Yes.
brings with that in their beliefs.
Yeah.
If you look at it, I mean, Christopher Columbus was, or couldn't have been that white.
Verrazano, who mapped out
But-
Rhode Island and gave Rhode Island its name, he said as he was going along the coastline, he was seeing Native Americans with blonde and red hair.
Yes.
But-
yes, I did hear about
Yeah.
that because they're not sure if they
Must be
mix
some
it with
French.
And there are
The-
certain,
the Norwegian,
there's a
yeah.
certain Indian group in like Virginia or whatever that has Jewish.
Yep.
Yeah. Or even John Adams and some of our founding fathers, I've heard that there was a lot of communication between them where they had a theory that the Native Americans were the original Jews that came here. I mean,
And
this
let's
is
face
But
it,
that's
like,
pretty interesting
This is a
theory.
whole nother
I
show.
Yeah, but the point is, you know,
Yes.
how many people have been coming here to affect, the
We're
area?
a big melting
And-
pot.
Yeah.
and
But
I
nobody
was just
wants
going to say, think about it, like,
So with all of
men
that,
and women are attracted to each other no matter what race or anything, so it doesn't even matter if it was 1900, 1800, 1700, what have you. Once you mix...
people get busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people get busy no matter what, even if it, I mean, for whatever reason, whether, you weren't supposed to mix back then or not,
But again-
people still do.
Or
Think
it
of
was probably
slaves,
a lot
think
of
you
not so
know.
much attraction, but forceful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
both,
Yeah, who knows?
both.
All right,
Because-
and now that brings us to the types of crimes that happen, crimes of passion.
Absolutely.
So people, whether
Heated.
it's about a person or a belief or a politic, that's when
Right, no,
crimes will
like I
happen.
was saying earlier, why I think a lot of the haunting is passion. Again, it's that, yeah.
All right, true crimes. UFOs, aliens.
No.
It's okay. I'm
It's okay.
aliens.
She's just oblivious.
Aliens. I personally, to my knowledge, have not experienced anything yet as far as
Yeah.
having a one-on-one. Right.
So
yeah.
you're open to the possibility.
I am open to the possibility, that aliens do walk among us.
Walk among us.
I do,
Very
and
interesting.
I do feel like they do. I personally, again, to my knowledge, have not had a one-on-one experience.
Yeah, that
Or-
you know of.
To
yeah.
my knowledge, that's why
Yeah.
I keep on saying it.
What
to
about-
my knowledge.
And that also includes funny lights in the sky type
Yeah.
of thing that you've had nothing that you have
I-
been able to delineate as.
Yeah,
that-
unidentified flying
Whenever.
object. I haven't experienced anything where I've seen something that would be considered a UFO.
Okay.
I'm not answering that question.
Well, it's funny, we're just talking about witchcraft, and you look at East Anglia, where the famous Bentwaters case took place of, that's where they say
And
that
I've got
witchcraft,
something to share about
where
that case.
witchcraft supposedly started in England, was in
Yeah.
East Anglia. So again, you have an incredibly haunted section of England where witchcraft is said to have started in Great Britain, and some of the most impressive UFO stories ever documented in that area. And it's like, again, are we talking about certain areas of the world where that the veil's thin, magic's practice, passions flare, ghosts haunt, and weird animals roam the earth? It's funny. It's
We all have more mind power than what we give ourselves credit for that we even know
Absolutely.
about. And I think that we attract these things unknowingly or subconsciously. Or there are some people out there that might have more power to attract it controlled. So are these things a result of what we do in our
Yeah.
minds, or are they a result of
somebody else.
Some
Who
other
can?
consciousness.
Maybe when people
So-
activate their vehicles as we understand them, they may punch holes in time and space that might
Absolutely.
let things step in and out.
we'll never know,
We'll
or
never
will
know.
we?
Until we find that blue box that says police call box on it, knock
Yes.
on the door and
And there's
get
a
you.
huge awakening, which we always say there's always an energy shift, and more people are becoming more and more open to the sense of there being a paranormal.
I
Yeah.
personally feel that people try to I'm so open because they're following the unicorns and rainbows way of life, but those people that truly are open don't talk about it. And
I so want to live in their world.
me too, I'd love to. But when you truly are open, you experience things that you never thought were even possible. And when you start to experience those things, it really truly makes you wonder what else you can do.
It's like living in Lucky Charms.
But it's all in the individual as well. Like you never know what people are going to do with that information either. Some people might be fearful of it, and some people might use it
Yeah, to try
to-
and sell the unicorns, and make a
to
profit
sell
off
it
of
and be manipulative.
Yeah.
we never know.
But those are the
Because
people that don't truly get it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all fascinating, even the UFOs that I won't talk about.
Yeah.
I almost dressed as an alien tonight because I had little green ears, and then I totally decided against it because I might be mistaken for one and brought up to a mothership. So I went with
Oh.
a cat instead. It's a little more safe.
Okay. We have access to a mothership.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, I knew you two were coming, so that's why I figured
Yeah.
dressing as an alien was not the best option.
Yeah. But no, I mean, look how much little we've touched on the subject. This area, the Bridgewater Triangle, is just
We just
so,
sucked up a whole hour.
So
We should
much
go
to
for
say
it.
know.
about
We
it.
just
it's
talked
been-
about the topic.
Yeah, we
Never
just
mind
skimmed
any
it. We just
cases.
Yeah, we
skimmed it,
skimmed
yeah.
it, and that's the thing. It's like you can go on and on and on. And by the way, if they do make a second Bridgewater Triangle documentary, I already told Aaron that I want you to be the narrator. So I already put the word in. I'm
But
like,
hey,
if there's a second one, I would recommend.
Thank you. A
Andy.
few people have flattered me saying that, but let's give credit to John Horgan.
Oh,
That's-
absolutely.
He has an excellent speaking voice, and
Absolutely.
and it's got that little bit of Massachusetts tinge to it. So, John Horgan, it's
Yep.
just, he did do a very
perfect.
good job.
But I also said that I'm biased.
yeah.
because Andy's my
But
I
I do
am
appreciate
biased.
that.
But it is 8 o'clock, so we're going to get going. As much as we love having these guys on, we should have them on once a month because they just fascinate all
Hey,
of
if you
us.
guys want to come on once a
So-
month, we'd love it.
But anyway, happy Halloween to everybody.
Yes, happy
Happy
Halloween.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you so much for watching tonight. We appreciate it, and we will be back next week, so join us.